Hey guys, I'm in the studio today laying some bass tracks for a project that I'm working on, and I came across this little trick that I want to share with you, and this is going to help you make sure that your bass guitar tracks are in sync with everything else in the mix. Now, before we dive into the recording tip I'm about to show you, and this is going to be extremely cool, I want to tell you that this video really pertains more to guitar players like myself and like most of you. We're guitar players, but we still want to play bass and we want to lay our own bass tracks. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, I'm going to butt hurt a lot of people here, including myself. As a guitar player, we're not going to be as great of a bass player as a true bass player who dedicates 100% of their time and effort into bass. Okay, that's a fact. Now, here's the problem with that, and I'm going to show you how to fix it. As a guitar player, we're going to focus on our guitar tracks first, right? Because that's like the meat and potatoes, now I'm hungry, of our music. But no, we're going to focus on those guitar tracks first, and we might have like an easy drummer loop or something like that in there to help us keep timing, and that's a good recording tactic as well. But our bass tracks, we save that, usually to the end. And as you're recording bass with everything else in the mix, sometimes your timing is going to be a little off and may not be in sync with everything else going on, and you're not going to know that right away. So the first thing I do is really what we just talked about. I record my bass track with the full mix. You got the drums, got the guitar, so I do this. Now, here's my little trick that I use pretty much every time I record anything. After I record the bass track in the full mix, I go back and listen to it, but I silence the guitars and I just listen to my drum track and the bass. Now, once I go back and listen to that track, just the bass track with the drums or the click track, whatever you're using, I strongly encourage you guys to use some sort of drum loop though. This is TuneTrack's Easy Drummer. I think it's the Metal Machine pack I'm using. Just makes the recording process so much smoother and more lively, I guess you could say. I know it's fake drums, but have an actual drum beat as opposed to just tick, tick, tick. It's much more motivating to play to the drums in my opinion. But when you go back and listen to just those tracks, just the bass track and the drums, you can really tell where you're off, and you can kind of make those mental notes where you need to go back and fix things. Now, a lot of you may be thinking, well, Jason, why don't you just turn up the volume on the bass guitar track? Wouldn't that be the simple way to record? That way you can hear the bass. That has actually had an adverse effect in my recording experience. My timing actually sucks way bad when I do that. And I guess it has to do with just that bottom end of the bass, that overpowering. If it's too loud, it's going to take over everything, and you're not really going to be able to hear everything precisely enough to keep your timing. That's just my experience and my opinion. Again, some of you bass players watching this, please feel free to comment. You may have some better tips, but this is just something that's worked really, really well for me. Now, one thing I want to mention real quick, if you're going to go back and you're going to have an actual drummer record the drum tracks, because a lot of times that'll be the last step, especially if you're like me. I work with drummers like all over the world, so I'll send my final music to them and have them lay drum tracks to it and then send their tracks back to me. So if that's what you're doing, or if the drummer in your band's going to lay the drum tracks later, or you may go back and want to reprogram the drums that you're programming if you're working on a project that calls for that, what I will strongly suggest you doing is going back and re-recording your bass tracks, because those drums where that kick is going, that's going to change things up a little bit. And one thing I'll mention too, another thing I'll mention is, and this is crucial, and I think you bass players will agree with me as well, is the bass guitar should not always be doing the exact same thing that your guitars are doing. It doesn't have to follow that same exact note for note pattern. A lot of times your bass will be doing some different things, may even be playing some different notes that complement those guitar notes. And I know I'm kind of getting off track here as we're talking about recording bass tracks. I was trying so hard to make a pun today. There we go. Anyway, so that's just something to note. So you always want to make sure, I guess my whole point is, you always want to make sure that your bass guitar and your drums are in sync, and you know, the timing's right and all that good stuff. So guys, if you have any questions at all, please leave those in the comments below, or if you have any tips of your own that you'd like to share with everyone here, please leave those comments below as well. I always read those. I love reading your comments, and you guys know I always respond to you. Also, real quick guys, don't forget to check out the links in the YouTube description. I've got links to my albums. I'm always giving away free music, and you guys see my new Metal and Beer shirt here. I've got this in my shop now too, so I'll put a link in the description below as well. So guys, thank you so much for watching this, and until the next video, as always, keep it metal.